this evening. The first is to speak about the world language high school credit opportunity and related changes. The second item is to speak about dual enrollment and a state update. The third is to speak about adult education and a programming update. And then the fourth item is a general discussion and questions. So I'd like to start with the world language high school credit opportunity and turn it over to Augusto. We had spoken about this in our policy committee meeting. We are now going to be offering the opportunity for students to earn, hi Kara, earning the opportunity for students to earn credit during their 8th grade year, which will count towards high school graduation. And so I'd like Augusto to talk about the impacts on the world language. And if there's anything additional, Kara, you wanted to add into that, please feel free to jump in.
Hi, good morning. Good afternoon. I'm so sorry I'm late. We've been having some login issues kind of all week. So getting in has been a little bit challenging. So I can actually pull up the PowerPoint. Kelly, thank you for bridging until I got on. I really appreciate it. And I did connect with Augusto, and I will go over some of the slides first. And if there's any follow-up questions that are a little bit more deeper content specific, I asked him to join tonight to help support that conversation. And thank you, Rick, for also being here. So I'm going to pull up.
Sorry, just real quick. Do we have any board members that would be able to take notes tonight?
I could take it.
All right. Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate it.
So is the meeting called to order?
Yes. So 6:06, we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you.
Just give me a second because I am having a couple of issues here today. I apologize.
If you need me to, I can share, Kara. Let me know.
Yeah, this is there are definitely some issues. I'm going to quickly share this, Kevin, with you.
Okay.
Very quickly. And I'll just give it to Lauren so she has it as well. And if you could pull this up, that would be great. I'm not sure why there's some updates that are not happening here on my end. Thank you, Kevin. You can just stick it in a present mode and I could take it from there. Appreciate it. Again, apologize, everybody. Okay, so just go to the first slide. I could just quickly review the agenda. And I just want to preface this by saying, you know, when last year, at the end of the year, things closed very quickly. There were so many discussions on the table. And I connected with Lauren a couple times and, you know, we sent out some of the program updates. And I said to Lauren, I said, Lauren, did you hear anything back? Does anybody have any questions? And you know, she didn't quite hear anything back. And the reason why I wanted to have the meeting is to really just call attention, particularly to the world language credit update, because it's the kind of thing that as a board member, you would likely get questions on if people were kind of signing on late or had some questions that I thought it would be important for you to be prepared to at least understand the changes a little bit. And so, you know, normally we don't meet in August, but just before school started, I wanted to make sure that at least you were able to articulate what the changes meant. And so we'll talk about the world language credit opportunities and related changes. There are other high school credit opportunities as well, but the one that is causing a little bit of a change is the world language. There's a dual enrollment state update. I'd like to give you some great news on that and some of the work that we're going to be engaging in that's in line with some of our strategic goals. And then we have Rick tonight who's going to talk about some of adult education programming updates that have been evolving. And then just some general discussion. I know folks have questions and it's the beginning of the year. So some of this will help me, our discussion tonight, sort of formulate some of the curricular ideas and focused maybe some of the workshops for the board as well. So with that, we'll go into the first slide. Okay, so the policy committee this past year, we did some updates and made some changes to our graduation language that said that middle schoolers can now get credit for equivalent level high school courses. So if there's a high school course that's very similar in nature to what is being delivered at the middle school, that there is an opportunity to earn high school credit for that. So some of just the genesis of that has really been a push at the State Department level as part of their graduation requirement changes for Connecticut to broaden the scope of opportunities for students. And so all kinds of things on the docket with dual credit, early college opportunities, concurrent enrollment, dual enrollment, all of these opportunities for kids to have access to post-secondary, and really paving the way in terms of advantages for that by opening the doors a little bit in middle school for students to start to earn high school credit. And so an easy one, a no-brainer that's kind of been on the books for a while, two of them have been sort of world language and algebra. Now, algebra, there's really no changes involved in that. Students who are taking algebra in grade 8 as a full year course will receive high school credit heading into Danbury High School, and they will be able to continue on. So they'll enter high school with a full credit under their belt. That'll open up more math elective opportunities. It can open up advanced placement opportunities. It can open up dual enrollment with college opportunities. So that's great. The other area, and we talked a tiny bit about this in policy, that we would kind of come back and talk about the changes related to world language. So many schools offer Spanish 1, Spanish 2, even, starting at the middle school level. Danbury used to have that maybe about 10 or 12 years ago, and Augusto can probably check me on my dates. Over time, that had since split into, for example, a full year course broken up over 2 years. And so that was where when you see references here to a Spanish 1 or a French 1, that we have had a plan here in Danbury in the last couple of years where we had Spanish 1A and then Spanish 1B. So when you entered the school system in the middle school, you had a 22-day rotation exploratory in grade 6. In grade 7, students would choose either Spanish, they would choose either French. If you were West Side, you could choose Chinese. And then you would do that over the course, a full year course broken up over the course of 2 years. There's been some issues with that. Some students who, because it's considered a special area, some students who take Spanish 1A, for example, don't necessarily take the second half. They want to take another special area. And so we've kind of have this staggered start of classes across the 3 schools. And there's a variety of languages with those. So a couple of things was we look to see how can we create these opportunities for world language credit at the middle school, and also fix some of the sequencing issues that we've had in the past, but still continue to offer the courses that we have, but yet not increasing the amount of staffing that we would need. We decided to offer a full year equivalent of world language in grade 8, and then have our students do their exploratory experience in grade 7 instead of grade 6. Another benefit of this, in the eyes of, at least I know, our administrators, is that grade 6, especially in the last couple of years post-pandemic, has been really a grade level that they have targeted for intervention for students, right, to close some of the achievement gap and to bridge some of the gaps that with 13 elementary school students coming across that need different things. And so when students need intervention, they're pulled out of grade 6 in their special areas for different time periods, and then they go back. And so the world language, having some of that world language exploratory in grade 6 was a little bit problematic with so much intervention. So we've had conversations over the course of the year and the proposed sequence, in full discussion with the administrators, and Augusto spent time with the department at the end of the school year talking about the changes. We decided to move to the full year. And so the changes that result in that would be that for 23-24, which is this school year heading in, we allow the students who took 1A to finish the B So we will maintain Spanish 1B, maintain Spanish Heritage 1B, maintain French 1B, and Chinese 1B. Students will complete that sequence, and the grade 6 introductory experience moves from grade 6 to grade 7. And then next year, students who enroll in world language, who choose to take it and spend a year engaging in that course, will receive high school credit, because that will be an equivalent course to the high school. And so this year, students can get the algebra credit because that's ready to go, but we're in a transition phase with world language, so that we have to kind of clean up the system that we had in place over the next year or so. And then 2024-25 will start to receive world language credit for the high school as they enter in. And again, between those two courses alone, that really helps to open up the students' schedules, which have been very tight and prescribed for a while. And so this allows a little bit more of an elective opportunity and choice. It allows them to take more advanced placement courses should they decide to do so. And as we build our dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment opportunities, the students will want to take advantage of that as well. So we are excited about those changes, but they are different. And so I just wanted to make sure that you understood what those were, and that you're able to answer questions should anyone have those. And so I'm happy to field some questions on those. And the reason why the AIS Magnet in World Language is on there is because we've had a situation for a few years now. We've had Spanish over at AIS, and we've had some students who come out of AIS who go into our middle schools, have some background in Spanish. Over the last couple of years, the consistency with which that's delivered has varied because of the intervention needs of the students. And so some students are getting a little more Spanish than others. Augusto and I have had some great conversations as well as with our humanities folks, that a much better plausible option potentially could be for AIS, that becomes very much a multicultural, international world class that fits in with the theme of the school. And that's, we look at a little bit different alignment so that we don't have that awkward gap coming from just AIS students, where we have no one else in the district has, some Spanish background, formal Spanish training, and that we would look to kind of even out the curricular experience across, so that we don't end up with scheduling gaps as we've had in the past. So I know that that's a lot, but I definitely, because it's a lot, I wanted to bring that to you to see if you had any questions regarding the world language changes. So to summarize, kids will receive world language credit in grade 8 starting in 24-25. Teresa, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, this is a good idea, but what I don't see, the course descriptions between the middle school and the high school, you talking about the AIS differences, and
Yes.
what it's been my accustomed to seeing course descriptions and comparing them, what is the difference, if there's any, and then is it becoming aligned now with what's in the high school, in the middle school?
Yes, it's a great question.
You
We
want me to say something?
Oh, yes, I will. I'm just going to
Okay.
point out very
Go ahead,
quickly,
go ahead.
Teresa, and we could certainly share these with you, that the course of study guide at the high school has the descriptions for the various courses, and they will be one and the same, which is why we're
But you
able to.
didn't bring that before us, I just,
Okay.
as a courtesy for us to see, you're telling us, I'm not used to that. I'll be honest with you. I'm not, show us the description, the course study guide, include the descriptions here. That's all I ask. I think it's a great idea. Don't get me wrong, but you got to show the comparison. It's going to be aligned with, and this is what you want to do. Saying it's over here and not showing me, that doesn't help.
Okay, we could certainly follow up and do that for you.
Thank you. I mean,
You're
this is a great idea. It just, I would like to see, side by side comparison. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions?
Real quick.
Yes. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How
How
are you?
many credits did you say? I'm sorry. I don't know if you mentioned it. I know you mentioned credit, but I didn't know if it's 1, 2, or how many
Oh,
credits?
sure. So the students would receive 1 credit. So they would, and that would satisfy. So the students have to take two world language. So this would satisfy one of those already. It also helps on the credit on the number of sections in Spanish, also at the high school that we would have to offer. It kind of helps with the staffing levels there as well, because now you don't have to offer as many sections because kids are coming in with. Not to say that kids wouldn't want to go all the way through and do AP Spanish or
Right.
AP French, but it just opens up more opportunity and possibilities for students, which is really the goal.
How many sections then are there, or does it alleviate? In other words, how much room does it actually create?
Well, it depends how many students take advantage of this, right? Because it's a special area and it's an option. Kids don't have to take it. They don't have to do it. We're hoping, we're trying to incentivize it so that everybody takes the full year. So I think we'll get a sense, Michelle, it's a great question. Very curious myself. I think we'll get a sense of the pattern, right? Like generally how many kids are interested, and then, what do we have to do to make sure that make them more aware, or to get them, to take it on. So I think after a year or two, we'll get a sense of how many kids are interested and how often they continue on at the high school.
Yeah, because it would help with that 24 credit kind of issue we have, those 4 credits. It would alleviate one, and that would open up that schedule, which is like a Rubik's Cube, right? Everywhere you move, right? So
that's absolutely correct, Michelle.
I think we had like 50, what was it, 6 or 7?
Yes.
So that should help with alleviate that
Some
traffic.
of it.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes.
Okay.
And we are struggling to secure world language teachers as well. So that has been last couple of years very difficult. We're still looking to fill several positions right now as we in the waning weeks of school.
Okay.
Well,
I see your hand up, but if I could also just interject, just another thing to keep in mind is that while we require 2 credits for high school graduation, many colleges and universities are requiring 3. And so we have seen that increase in the 3 years of a language has increased in recent years. So this will not only allow students to get a head start prior to high school, but also open up the ability to take more years at the high school level, or to potentially take an elective in another area that they're interested in.
Great.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we do encourage to take what the minimum college requirements are, because it sets them up for success. Thank you, Kelly. Augusto, I'm sorry. I know you wanted to add some.
No, I was going to, I was going to bring another important component, which is the seal of biliteracy. So by doing this, we also kind of open the door to their appetite and make them more interested in actually becoming eligible for the seal of biliteracy once they get to the high school. So that would be like a climax for their word language experience in Danbury. And we have started that 3 or 4 years ago, and it has been very successful. So that's another component that will definitely get some improvement and some help from doing this.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on the world language?
Lauren has a hand raised.
I'm sorry, I can't. It's hard to see. Yes, go ahead.
So my question is, are there any requirements in middle school in order to take this credit? Like, do they have to have certain grades or anything like that? Or is it just across the board, everybody can take it? And
Yeah, it's good. It's great. Thank you. It's across the board opportunity for everyone. Now you have to pass the class to get the credit, the same way it is at the high school. So it has to be fair in the sense that, like, if you didn't really do well in it, and you didn't pass it, or you would probably want to take it again at that when you get to the high school and make so but
you
definitely
don't have to have
nope.
You don't have to have like a 65 in English, right? Like to take it or something like that. Okay.
No.
That's all.
Yep. And then and
Thank
it's you're welcome. And the other thing too is that we just require the part that is required as part of the middle school experience is the exploration. So we are going to introduce you to speak a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of French. If you're at West Side, a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of a little bit of Chinese so that you can make an informed decision before you engage in the year-long course. That's the only requirement. And we offer, that's part of the middle school experience, is the exploration component. But whether or not you want to take the language is part for the student. And it's open.
Teresa?
The credits again, is it 1 credit for the full year? And if
Yes.
they only do half a year, they get half a credit?
Well, once you're in a course in middle school, so these are full year courses. So it'd be a full year. It's kind of an all or nothing. Either you take it and do well and you pass the course, you get the full credit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One last question. I'm
Sure.
sorry. So currently, when you take it and it's 1A and then 1B, are you taking those in the same year, or one your first year in 2 years? So this is much better because you forget everything by then. So you're going in exploratory, it's in 7th grade now, and you have full instruction for a year instead 6th grade, forget everything, start in 8th, and then wait again until the next year. So this is actually, I think, a really good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. We think so too.
Thank you. Thank you for coming with it.
And if I may, just to add some clarification, in terms of curriculum, the 1A plus 1B equals level 1, exactly the same thing, exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Teresa, is your hand still up, or was that from
Yeah.
before? Okay.
So you'll get us course descriptions?
Yep, Augusto can, with the course and study guide in the middle school, Augusto can send over the description of those courses.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I lost you. I think I lost you.
We can see you and we can hear you.
Okay. Oh, there I am. Okay.
Sometimes the screen only allows so many views at once, so it's hard to see who's in the room
Okay.
sometimes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think, I'm certainly happy to entertain any follow-up questions in this if later, but if we're good, I can move to the next slide and could talk a little bit about dual enrollment. Okay, thanks, Kevin. So kind of in part of the larger umbrella of creating opportunities, you may have heard me talk about through the academy, developing, when we talked about the vision of the academy was to expand dual enrollment opportunities across all academies and not just have it in this kind of one DECO program. And so that was sort of our vision and our goal from the onset, is really building that up over time and creating articulations with area university partners and finding any opportunity to advantage the students in some way. And so, I think the state is, I'm going to put some ego behind here. They're thinking like we are now, right? In that they're starting to flood a lot of our information and our notes and our updates with this push for dual credit expansion. And as part of some of their, I believe it's some of their leftover ESSER money, they have allotted some districts. They have created, it's a competitive grant, but pretty much all the folks who have been targeted have been given an allotment to apply up to a certain amount. Danbury received a notice that they are eligible to apply for this grant. It's only $90,000, but it just allows us, and some small grants have so many strings attached to them that it's not worth it. This one isn't too sticky. So we definitely applied for it, and it is in 100% in line with our work. So this is really about scaling dual credit opportunities. And so when we applied for the grant, it was really to extend some of the work that we're already doing. So the application included stipends for teachers and someone to help coordinate the pathway development leaders, which is really a continuation from what we're doing with BAR. So in the BAR grant, we have 19 pathway development leaders. These are the folks that are really helping with the content area curriculum for CTE. They're serving as liaisons between the school, central office. They're in my office working on curriculum. And now as part of this, we would like for them we find opportunities to get our NVCC or WCSU and our post-university folks who we're having some conversation with, who are also approved providers with the state to build these relationships. They've also been urged by the state of Connecticut to reach back out to us and to work on alignment and articulations so that our curriculum and their curriculum have some crossover so that we can open the doors for students to get credit. So for example, today I had a meeting with NVCC, which was a second follow-up, where they're going to take our program of study guides. So they're going to look at the let's say the engineering pathway, and they're going to say, well, if you're going to offer an engineering one program in your pathway, why don't we have an engineering program course description that looks very similar to what you want to do. And so let's work together to satisfy the requirements for both what we would want to see and what they would want to see, and then offer a section of that class to earn college credit. And so students, so if we offer 2 sections of engineering, we would say to students, and if you want to get college credit for this one, you can enroll in this section, and this is the one we'll offer 3 credits at NVCC. And today was very exciting because NVCC would like to try to match our pathway curriculum to at least have 6 credits in each pathway, potentially 9. But these are evolving conversations. But in order to kind of really do that work, you really need to have content area teachers at the table working with NVCC and WestCon and post teachers who are engineer experts and those who are delivering content to work together to make that happen. And it's not an overnight process; it's an overtime process, and the application would support the work needed to do that. Again, we had built a little bit of this in terms of curriculum into the BAR grant for the pathway specific items, but the BAR grant right now currently only runs through the end of this year unless we get an extension. And so what we did was we took some of the things that we were doing in BAR, and we're hoping to sustain that work. And so in the application, we identified that the target year for using the funds would be 24-25. So we're just trying to find creative ways to leverage funds to continue to do the work, especially heading into, the next year or two with the expiring ESSER funds, et cetera. And then another part of the grant is at the bottom is there are situations where in order to teach a certain course, WestCon or NVCC, UConn used to be a great example of this. They would not engage in we could not have one of our teachers teach their college course unless they had at least 2 graduate courses in the content area under their belt. A lot of our teachers have master's degrees in education, but they may not have a master's degree in mathematics. They have an undergrad degree in mathematics, but not a master's. And so UConn would say, listen, we'll partner with you, but your folks have to take two graduate classes before we can certify them to teach our course. And so a lot of our teachers are like, sorry, I don't have the extra, $1,500 to take a course, thanks, but no thanks. And so we've embedded a little bit of funding in here so that to remove that barrier. So if we have a teacher who's been teaching with us for a while and they're the perfect person to help broker some of these dual enrollment, that we can reimburse them for some minimal coursework to make that happen. So yes, Teresa.
So what was the total that you applied for?
It was our allotment, the max we could apply for was 90,000, might have been $90,050 or something like that. It was 90,000 and we applied for 90,000.
Okay.
So, yep.
Well, one more. And
Teresa, we would never not apply for 90,000. That's the rule.
The other thing is, when we work hard to do these arrangements with the colleges, I found that the credits coming out of high school were only accepted towards electives and not towards majors. Would this be something that would be different, that they could use it towards their majors?
Yes, so I see this as the seed. I see this as the beginning, not the end. So, if we can pull this off, who's to say? So we already have some articulations, for example, with our AP courses. So if you pass the AP English course, AP Literature course, WestCon, we have an articulation with WestCon that they would get credit for that. That would satisfy sort of their English 1 course that when they come in, their first gen ed. And so we want to be able to do more of that. So along those lines, so right now the focus, all the focus is on the academy and the CTE pathways. But I would love to see our students start to get credit for anything that we can get our hands on to get credit for. What we're trying to wrestle with, if I could be completely transparent, is that all of a sudden we have, because the state has knocked on the door of each and every one of these universities that said, we're going to give you some money to work with them. And then they said, we're going to give to the districts, we're going to give you guys some money to work with them. So get together and start forming articulations, work on this stuff. And it's wonderful that it's happening. But, Post came out of the gate and like, oh, we would love to partner in these areas. NVCC is working on that. We just got an email. Brent sent me an email today. He goes, he was having conversations with Goodwin University, who had all kinds of opportunities. And so, I was like, whoa, we have to slow the train down a little bit, because, do we create really intentional pathways with one, like NVCC, for example, is now, as of this summer, Connecticut State University system. So if you take a course, if you register as NVC as your home school, you are good to go with in terms of a transcript registration and have access to any community college in Connecticut. Before, they were separate. They did not speak to one another. They offer different things. They still will have different programs in different areas of the state, but now our kids, if we partner with them, can access something happening at Middlesex Community College that has a unique program that no one else has, if it is online courses or whatever. So the idea is to make sure, Kevin, we lost the presentation. I don't know if it matters or not, but the idea is to, do we have a solid relationship with multiple pathways in one area? Or are we going to give kids, you can get 3 credits at Goodwin University, and you can get 3 credits at Post, and you can have 3 credits. So kids will have 3 university transcripts started with 3 credits each on them. Or do we want to, dig deep and go deeper with one school and make sure that they have, so we're working through those pieces now, but we're meeting with different universities to see what the best way to position this for our students is right now. But we're definitely going to be working with NVCC for sure. We've had some great conversations today with them.
I have a question, Kara.
Yep.
So how much did you say the bar grant was for? I don't know if you mentioned it. I didn't hear that you were going to utilize some of it and then it was going to be expiring, but what is that amount for?
Yeah, it's about the same amount in terms of the stipends that we have for the teachers to be pathway leaders, and then a pot of money to work on curriculum development and projects over the summer. So it's close to it. It's like it's not quite 90,000. I think it was like 30,000 for total for stipends, and then maybe another 30-ish for some of the curricular pieces. So the amount of money for the same type of work is in the same ballpark, which is kind of why we thought of this grant as like, this would be a great way to extend that work.
So right now, in order to this development that you're looking at, these 19, I'm going to say teachers, the 90K would cover the expense for the development of these pathways. There would be no additional cost or
sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Well, you could finish your statement. Well, not right now that we know of. So, what we know we're going to have to revise, the first time that you develop a curriculum with all these new components at play, right? We're trying to integrate portrait of the graduate skills. We're trying to embed industry content, that we're meeting with. And so usually, in the first iteration of curriculum, teachers will then implement, and they'll get to the end of the year and we'll say, let's have a feedback conversation about what worked, what didn't work, what felt really aligned and what didn't feel aligned in your teaching, and how can we make this curriculum better. And so then we make those edits, and sometimes you go back and you do revisions. And so usually courses get revised a couple of times before they kind of settle in to what it's going to be. And we do pay our teachers a curriculum development. It's an hourly curriculum development stipends, like $31 an hour. And it's never enough for what they actually really do, but it's a gesture towards the work. But we do need those funds to sustain continuous work. So, when it comes to grants, we always look for opportunities to continue to fund that work outside of the back of the district general fund.
So I just want to make sure I understood that. So we pay approximately like $30 an hour for these 19 people to help develop the curriculum and the pathway.
Correct.
And that would be within, we're looking at the 90K and not expecting it to be more.
Not more at this time. So that's
At
for
this
like,
time.
yeah,
Right.
the first round of work. Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just have a question. It's Lauren. When you said we pay the $31 an hour, we already have teachers, not including these 19, right, that we're paying that $31 an hour, that whatever it is, for curriculum development ongoing. So this isn't something like we're just implementing because of the academy, correct?
Yes. So thank you. So whenever we do curriculum work, right? So
Thank you.
yes, that's, it's not new, it's not different, right? This is just a continuation. And to, to that end, it's, whenever we can use a grant to offset or to supplement or to continue and sustain work, we always look to do that. So this is just normal practice. This is not new.
Right. And we have that set hourly rate. So we're not changing anything. We're not going out of the box anywhere. This is just developing for the new high school.
Correct. And those rates are set with the union. Those are already pre-negotiated, those terms.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yep.
Does this also include nonprofits as part of the community? That would be involved in this when we're talking about establishing business relationships, the schools, is the community also like nonprofits? Or is this specifically for the development of, through the school programs that we're looking at currently?
So you mean in terms of offering college credit in that direction?
Or, right. I mean, I know that we had talked about it with nursing and other programs. Is it, and we're engaging the community. I'm just wondering, is that part of this conversation? And you're just having obviously across the board with all industries and partners? Or
yeah, so the dual credit, so there's two pieces, there's so many moving parts to this, but the idea is that, so if we're developing CTE pathway, and we'll use engineering as an example, go back to the engineering example again. So there's a couple things that need to happen. So, teachers at Danbury High School, we may have one or two people who have some engineering background, right? But they're teachers, they're not actually in the field, and they're, so in order to help develop the course and to help stay current with the course and what's emerging, right, in the industry, especially right now with artificial intelligence and all the crazy things that are happening, we want to make sure that we have a relationship and a partnership with some engineering firms, that people who are willing to so that's the, and they could be nonprofit, they could be for-profit. Nonprofits are always great, but they could be anybody who we think are the best people to talk to. So we have to work with them to get content for curriculum, right? And then in order to say, in order for the students to get university credit, we have to make sure that what we're putting together is going to also satisfy and work for and work with university partners. So it's kind of a triangle of work and collaboration that has to occur to make it happen. And it could come from a variety of folks, but the universities are the ones who would issue the credit. So we kind of have to play to their tune a little bit.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a follow-up question to Michelle's? So with the partnership, this is kind of a partnership question, just real quick. We're out there Brent is making these partnerships and these connections and building our community for us for the Academy High School. But like at the end, say we have I know we have Danbury Hospital for nursing. That's awesome. But say we have a well drilling pathway, and we have Bill's well drilling and Harold's well drilling. Where do we narrow it down to picking? Do we pick one over the other? Where does it come into these are great, both great businesses, but this one is really going to be better for Danbury? And who makes that decision? Does the board come into play where they listen? And not that the board would make that decision, but just where do we come into play? And is that a decision? Do we have two companies? How do we decide who's better than another?
Yep. So that's a great question.
That's a great question.
Yeah. So So I think I used the term, I think at least I did with this group, I used the term dating. Because we are, it's okay for us to initially start off working with an engineering firm, let's just say, right, to get information from them, to say, how, what are the most critical aspects that are accessible to high school students for them to get a sense of this industry, and then the basic skills that they would need to enter it, right? And let's just say we worked with Larry's engineering firm to partner with that work for a year. But Larry's engineering firm might not be able to offer us, 6 or 7 internships for students, right? They're a small firm, but they're super friendly towards education, and they want to work and come in and do all these things, but they don't really have a lot of spots for entry. So it's okay for us to work with Larry's engineering firm to get the content information that we need, because they're super friendly partners, and they have a knack for, like, they're invested, they like the curriculum aspect of things. Sometimes you get really interesting people in these corporations that have a knack or a skill, or they were a teacher, whatever, to work with us. And it's okay to say we're going to use 3 other engineering firms to offer internships, and we can partner. Our partnership with them could be the internship, but our partnership with those other three firms could be that you guys are going to send your engineers on career day to come in to talk to our kids. We're going to schedule you across the school year for a variety of engagements. And we're going to go out to 3 different engineering firms for field trips for kids to see what this looks like in action. So, there's no one partner that's going to do all of the things that we're going to do. And as we get to kind of know who's going to be the best fit for what part of this, that's the part that's going to, that will continue to evolve. And so we've had conversations with some folks who were like, jumped out of the gate, can't wait to do this, and then we're following up, and they're not, they don't respond right away, and we're like, okay, I may not be the best partner down the road.
Right.
So.
And Lauren, to your question, initially I recall Kara presenting out and talking about how they sat with they went through a process to determine what direction the industry was headed, what positions, what fields would be the higher paying jobs for students. But if I heard your question correctly, industry might change, demand for positions might change, and what is the process to help shift along with how industry is moving. And as I understood the structures that Kara, Brent, and Dan presented out on a couple of months ago, and Kara, I don't remember which one in terms of the organization structures, but one of those structures actually continues to evaluate if what we're offering is actually appropriate for kids, meaning
Right.
appropriate, continuing to meet the regional and state demands across the state. And as I heard it from Lauren, it's like, hey, there might be a different demand, and it might be different from what we're offering right now. And how are those decisions made? And the structures that we have in place from Nashville, and now the ones we're putting in place, will help to keep an eye on what's going on. So can you speak to that a little bit? Because that's how I heard Lauren's question. I don't know if that's what she was getting at.
Yeah.
No, it's all a lot of information, and I appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yes.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi. One more question about the $31 an hour for coursework development. Is that credit hour?
No. So it's so for example, if we say a brand new course is going to be developed, then we say that should take about 80 hours with developing out the assessments and everything that goes with it, or it could be 40 hours. So for example, we would sort of make a determination about how many hours a project would cost. So when I say when I say 80 hours, that's like kit and caboodle assessment development, rubric development over the course of a period of time. A lot of projects take 5 hours, they take 20 hours. And we try to make an assessment. So for example, Teresa, I'll give you a differentiator. So we've used Project Lead the Way curriculum. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but they have a curriculum that has a lot of the components that we're looking for when we look for curriculum. And so most of the work is done when you adopt that curriculum and you're using it. So like for engineering specifically, that's one that we'll be using for engineering 1. So there's not a lot of work to do. So there's only a few hours assigned to add the other pieces to it. Something that starts from scratch could have more hours over, and that's being developed over the course of a couple of years.
I just, faculty, when it was by the credit hour. And, and credit hour was, $1,000 or $500, depending on, what level they were or whatever. So this is a little bit more open-ended and arbitrary. So it's a little different.
Well, it's not open-ended in the sense that so the hours get assigned, but we make a determination. And so we've had situations where well, it took me longer than 20 hours. It's really about assigned project hours. So, well, may have taken you a little bit longer to do it, but we assigned 20 hours. So you kind of got to get it done within a scope of window. And sometimes revisions are needed. There's different levels of expertise with developing curriculum. So sometimes we send it back and folks have to kind of do some extra work on it with the same assigned project hours. So that happens as well. So it's not as open-ended as you think, Teresa. I keep a pretty tight handle on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. Kara?
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay. So 2 things. We've discussed on several occasions at our regular meetings and curriculum meetings about going to Nashville. I think at this point, especially people on this committee, need to get a real understanding of what we're looking at. I had requested as well several times. I didn't see it come over. Perhaps I missed it. The flow chart, basically the operations. Remember when they came from Nashville on the visit, and they said that they actually have a model of what this looks like. How many people to support a student in the business entity, a scope of it, do you recall that?
The Nashville folks said they had a chart.
Oh, yes. And Kevin, you were there. Do you recall the conversation? I
don't remember the context. So was it their organization chart?
Yes, it was basically, and I forgot the very lovely lady who came here, the older one, who had said that they do have an organizational chart because it looked like they had several ways of breaking down the system, and they had several people that were supporting at every level. It looked like, there were 20 people touching one student. And I specifically asked the question at our breakout meeting, and then again at the overall main meeting, and I was told that I would be provided that chart, that it exists. And I wanted to compare it as far as what we do is student enrollment. That's how we base our support in all essence. And we are struggling with paras. The program that was provided to us and the kind lady again that was running it said, yeah, it's kind of difficult. We have to fill in the gaps, were the actual words that she had used. So again, we're looking at curriculum. We don't have the course curriculum breakdown, which would make it easier for us to reference, like Teresa had mentioned, this operational chart to see how we have what we currently have as staff and a different model for what we're looking at. And they have different ways of funding it through property tax, so they don't collect. And they have that flexibility we discussed as well of being able to just place children in different locations. This is when we came up that we are a lottery system and that it is more difficult to provide, and that is why they're successful. So all this, I'm sure you recall, came up, and I feel that if Teresa, myself, Lauren have the opportunity to actually see the program live and in person, as well as, what really constructs it, we would have a much better idea of what we're talking about and much more in-depth questions and analysis of really what we're considering here, which is our curriculum. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Please.
So thank you for that. I'm texting and emailing as we speak to see if Brent, to see if he has that, and from that conversation, and that see what we can get from our Nashville folks. They were super friendly with sharing, so I'm sure that would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they were happy to do that. And I also believe we've asked on multiple occasions, but I don't seem to have received it, the list of the current business partners that you are having, because I believe that there was a number of 60 partners currently that are, so again, can we please have the businesses, the community leaders, you know, who are we talking to? Thank you.
I'm just adding that to the list here.
Appreciate that very much.
Okay. All right. I think we could go to the next one before we go to sort of the general discussion. I just could give you some updates. But we have Rick Riusi with us, and I think that hopefully you were introduced at some point. That is our new adult director, and we're very lucky to get him and to find him. And he's already working on establishing some partnerships and some great branches in the community. So I don't know, Kevin or Rick, if you wanted to talk a little bit about this, but I will turn it over to you both.
Yeah, thank you, Kara. And I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Rick. I know some of our board members attending some functions that Adult Ed and Family Community Resource Center collaboratively had together to close out our school year. Rick was able to pull together some meetings through some really fast and creative programming. I think Rick's been with us for about 4.5 months and already has his foot well entrenched into the community and is continuing to try to further develop our adult education program. I've asked Kara and Lauren if we can add Adult Ed to the agenda this evening to really talk about what we feel like is an amazing opportunity for the community, and also an opportunity to bring some resources into the district, some of them financial, but also some resources via coursework opportunities. And I've asked Rick if he can come explain and talk through some of these unique opportunities. We have someone who was in Adult Ed, in charge of Adult Ed in Milford previously. I'm happy to say that we stole him from Milford. But with his experience well recognized and appreciated and respected across the state, we're happy to have him here. I think we've already benefited from his leadership, and he's going to talk to you tonight about some unique opportunities that's ahead of us that I think, quite frankly, is going to be mutually beneficial. So, Rick, if you can talk to us about it.
Thanks, Kevin. So like Kara had mentioned, my name is Rick Riusi. I am the new director for Western Connecticut Regional Adult and Continuing Education, or WERACE. WERACE is located at 10 Crosby Street. As some of you might know or might not know, the state requires every municipality to offer certain state mandated programming for any adults age 17 years or older. Those programs include high school diploma programs. So anybody that had not completed their high school diploma program in a traditional high school sense has the opportunity to take those classes. English as a second language classes for anyone who is not a native English speaker, and then citizenship preparation classes, which ultimately prepare someone to take the citizenship examination as they're putting in their application for citizenship. So those are the state mandated programming that we currently offer. The state of Connecticut offers 3 different types of pathways, if you will, to high school diploma completion. 2 result in an actual high school diploma that come from Danbury. And the third is obviously the GED certificate, which is a high school diploma alternative, but it is not a diploma itself, it is a certificate. Currently, Danbury offers 2 of those 3 options. The partnership that we're going to talk about in just a moment will allow us to offer that third option to Danbury residents, which is very, very unique. Will open up a lot of doors for a lot of the residents in our community. Something that we've been working on at WERACE over the last 4 months has been discussions on how we can expand our programming. So over the last few years, WERACE has done a very nice job in providing those state mandated programs, but we have not, and we haven't provided enrichment programming for the Danbury community. Throughout the last 4 months, I have worked not only with Brent, but with local businesses and different stakeholders within the community to identify folks that might be interested in teaching enrichment classes for us come spring 2024. I'm really excited to announce that we will be having enrichment programming for the first time in a very long time that will be open to the entire Danbury community. So we'll be piloting that in spring 2024, and that's really exciting for us. I hope that I see some of you at those classes. If you're interested in teaching one of those classes, I'd love to talk to you. But we know across the state, a lot of people appreciate enrichment classes. In talking with other directors and my experience coming from Milford, we had, upwards of 3,500 residents that would take part in those enrichment classes. So we're hoping to build something substantial in Danbury that will allow residents to take part in that, which is great. One of the partnerships that I wanted to talk with you all about this evening, as you know, we are a regional program. We currently service, in addition to Danbury, 7 additional municipalities. So that creates our regional program. And we currently offer Connecticut Diploma Program, which is one of the 3 programs that I referenced earlier, which results in a successful candidate earning a diploma. And then additionally, we offer GED. The one program that we don't currently offer is called National External Diploma. And in talking with Milford, my former district, we are very interested in entering into a partnership with them that would be mutually beneficial for us. It will allow us, for the first time in quite a while, to offer GED in the fall, as well as offer this 3rd program for diploma that will allow students an alternate pathway to earn a high school diploma for NEDP. And additionally, it will expand our ability to offer additional ESL programming during the daytime for Danbury residents and folks within our district. And it will bring in upwards of $40,000 to our program and allow us the ability to service more folks within the community. So I wanted to report out on that and provide that update. We're very excited. I'm very optimistic about the direction that the department is taking and the changes that we're seeing and the growth that we're experiencing. Teresa, please.
As a person who works at the Danbury Library, you desperately need what you're talking about. And I would highly recommend, reaching out to the library if you want to put a table there and showcase when you have your programs all set up and you want to drum up business. It's a great idea. We definitely need that service.
Thank you. I'm excited that you pointed that out, and I'm happy to share that I actually was speaking with the library for the last 2 weeks. Someone by the name of Chelsea to partner on a grant and possibly do that. So,
Okay.
So we're definitely pursuing that actively.
Excellent. Excellent.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
So I just wanted to add, I did ask Rick and let him know I would love to be able to get him back in front of the full board later on in the fall to just kind of talk about the things that are going on and developments that are going on in adult ed. We want to find every way possible, number one, to promote what's going on in adult ed. And if we're going to have this enrichment programming, of course, we want to start with the board and see if we can kind of get the word out in our community. Rick in Milford very successfully actually offered courses to staff to try to just get their feet wet and hope that they remain interested. Some free courses. So I'm not exactly sure what his strategy is going to be here in Danbury, but we want to get as much foot traffic as possible. And then from there, try to create an additional source of revenue for the adult ed program. So again, continue to remain really excited about Rick's leadership here in the district. And we'll have some more updates regarding this partnership. And hopefully this is something that we can solidify really soon and Ray can come back and tell us more about what this means for Danbury.
Rick,
Thank you. Yeah.
I will be reaching out to you this week or next week about some ways I can help get information out to the community.
Awesome. I would love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think we could go to the last slide. You know, and Lauren wanted to make sure that we had time to talk about anything you really wanted to talk about or just ask questions. And, you know, as we head into the school year, you know, there are so many things happening. There are so many different types of things that we could talk about, but I did want to just update you. And some of this is relevant for you and some of it's just more, you know, good to know. And you know, the kind of training that we're going to be engaging folks in across the district K-12. You know, as you know, we're implementing our course. There's a pretty big training series dedicated to that. It's going to take a lot of time across the year, and a lot of our efforts are going to be surrounding that. I think the academy itself is well known that we're going to be doing a lot of work on that. But in addition to the things that you may not hear a lot about, it's really art core literacy training will be kind of front and center for elementary this year. That our district is engaging in something, an opportunity, an invitation from the state to participate in something called the Science of Reading Master Class. And it's very much tied to why we switched to Art Core and why we headed down that road. And it's tied to the legislation. So the very first year that the legislation came out, they took a few pilot districts and engaged them, give an opportunity to engage in a master class of the science of teaching reading. And it was really district leaders that was the target of that training. So that everybody was on the same page about the look fors and what should be happening at our earliest levels, to make sure that folks' skills were up to par, and that really had a deep sense of shared language and vocabulary around these things. So we were mad that we did not get in that first cohort and that we weren't picked for that first round. It was very randomized. They just kind of tried it with a few folks, and we had pestered the state on a regular basis to say, if you offer this training again, please make sure Danbury's involved in it. So long and short of it is they opened up another round and a cohort. Danbury was invited, and they selected 13 districts. They invited, I think, 15 or 18 schools to apply. It was an application process. So we applied, and we were invited to attend. And so a lot of our central office leaders, Kevin, Kelly, myself, our literacy experts, a couple of our coaches, a few teachers and student support specialists, and 2 principals will be engaging in a very deep training opportunity over the course of the year. Training costs are completely on the state of Connecticut, Teresa. So there is no cost to us, thankfully. That's why we really wanted to make sure we got involved in this. The state itself is already $12 million in on this training that they're providing with the level of the experts coming from across the country to do this. But it's of no cost to us. So they have not passed that cost on to us. So we're very excited to do that. But it'll keep our folks very busy this year. I'll skip down. I'll leave PBS training for the end because Kelly is deeply involved in setting that up. So I'll circle back to her in just a second. Our Delta Aspirant program. So those are our teacher leaders and folks who want to become administrators. And so we have a couple of sessions. We meet with them. I meet with them after school on Wednesdays. We have different central office administrators come in and talk to them about their role, their work, what they do. So they engage in some wonderful professional development there. And then we also get to see who kind of rises out of that group as a real leader. And we have hired some of our aspirants in the past. And so we'll continue that as well. We have this year a small but developing administrator induction program. So rather than, good luck, welcome to Danbury, get right into that building, we're intentionally going to be pulling them out to work with them and to make sure that they're off to a really solid start. So we'll engage them in some of professional development as well. So we have a few sessions dedicated to that right away in the fall so that they feel comfortable and that they can transition, and they also kind of understand the Danbury way. Our teachers really are going to be very excited. We're going to be taking them out on some of those on industry externships. So in November, the goal is to take the teachers who have been assigned to the different academies and allow them an opportunity to go out to a manufacturing facility or on site to see what the work that an engineer would do, or to see the work. We had a successful event last year where some of our teachers visited Lesser Evil, the company, the snack company in Danbury. They were blown away. They felt they were abuzz with ideas that they wanted to, well, can we get this into the curriculum? Can we try this with the kids? Oh my gosh, now I get what it is we have to do. And can we bring the kids here for a field trip? And so we were like, wow, the teachers went crazy for that opportunity, that professional learning. And it was very different than what they're used to getting. Now, okay, we're going to talk to you for a couple hours here in PD. And so they really loved it. And so we're going to try to scale that in November and take some of our teachers out and get them passionate about this, but then also bring that information back to inform curriculum. And then very quickly, I'll talk about NASAP training last before I turn it over to Kelly. Illustrative mathematics, we've been rolling that out over the last several years. It'll finally reach grades 4 and grade 5, which is wonderful because we've done K3 and we've had 6, 8. And so this kind of closes the gap on math, and we're really trying to improve our math scores. So there'll be our 4th and 5th grade teachers will be doing that work quite a bit this year, and we'll be engaging our principals and understanding how to support that as well. NASAP training. So this kind of goes to Michelle, some of the things, we've heard how Nashville does some things. The NASAP standards, our academy standards for what a model academy should look like. And so they're aspirational standards. So if you have these things in place and you're doing all of these things to this degree, right, it's kind of a rubric and a continuum of level of where are you at with getting to this really high standard. And we'll use that as we go forward to measure our progress on how we're doing, and to hold ourselves accountable for having a high standard and not dropping any of the important pieces that go into this. So so that's something that we want to hold ourselves accountable for. And I'd like to socialize the board and orient the board on what those standards are, so that you're also familiar with them as well, and that we have some shared language and understanding. And so at some point during the course of the year, and we can certainly start it in the curriculum committee, I'd like to introduce those to you, and then the board at large. And we can talk more about that, but that's definitely one of those. That's why I have a little star there, because I think it's something that the board should be well aware of. And then I'm going to turn it over to, I'm happy to field questions at the end, turn it over to Kelly, talk a little bit about the PBIS training and the importance of that work this year.
Sure. Another training, thank you, Kara. Another training that we're going to be doing this year is PBIS, which is Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. And essentially what that is explicitly teaching kids the soft skills, the behavioral expectations, so that they can be successful in school, both in life and in school. So we are going to elicit teams from K-8. There'll be a team inclusive of building administration, pupil services, so support personnel, classroom teachers, and other key leadership positions in the building. And every one of those teams will be trained by CERC on this model. And so it'll be a 6-day comprehensive training. We have 2 cohorts of teacher teams going through these trainings. And then their responsibility will be to bring the information back and develop expectations for their school. We have noticed since post-pandemic that the behavioral needs of our students, some of the disciplinary needs and so forth, have been on a rise, as well as some of our engagement, attendance, and things like that. So this is a way to explicitly teach expectations district-wide, so that we're very clear on what we expect students to be doing, so that we can have both safe and positive learning environments for kids. We all know kids that need to be connected to school, they need to feel safe at school, and they need to be there at school in order to learn. So the work of this team is really talking about the curriculum. This is setting the stage for the curricular work to happen. And so this training will happen over the next 3 years. It is being funded through kind of a variety of different grants. But every year there'll be 6 days of training this year, followed by 5 days of training the following year, and then 4 days of training the year after. And so what each team will be responsible for doing is setting expectations, doing presentations to the whole school, including staff, students, and families, so that everyone is aware of what we expect. So rather than just providing the discipline policy, which we will also do, this also communicates those positive things that we want to see students doing within school, also helps them to feel part of the school community, have shared expectations across the school community, and have input into that. So we're really excited. It's been something we've been wanting to do over the last handful of years, and we've had this opportunity, and so we're excited to launch this. also along with this, it's not on the list, but we will be doing training on Aperture, which is a social emotional screener we'll be using for our kids. So after we set the expectations, if there are students that still have needs and need a little bit of extra follow-up or support or work, that screener will help us to identify those needs and further support those students as well. So our teachers will receive training in both of these areas to help support the social emotional needs of our kiddos. Turn it over for any questions on either PBIS or anything else on the list.
Does anybody on the curriculum committee have any questions about anything we went over tonight, or just kind of questions that you're looking for answers on?
Yes, Teresa. I'm sorry. I was waiting for Lauren to, but I wasn't sure what the rule was. I keep forgetting.
Going back to credit, high school credit for world languages. As we all know, we have a very diverse population. Do we ever test students out of world languages with their background? I mean, do we ever do that?
So one of the things that I don't have the slide up, but you saw heritage Spanish on the list. And so we have a lot of students that come in and speak Spanish and have a stronger oral background, but they're not literate in terms of their reading ability or their writing ability. So it's a whole different ballgame, right? Because grammar comes into play, language structure, context comprehension in print and in writing. So we offered a heritage course. So those are for students who probably on the surface could test out orally, right? Like the student clearly can speak English and Spanish, but really they are not literate and proficient in it, if that makes sense. And so the heritage class is for Spanish speakers who on the surface can orally, engage, but need more work and more attention, more time on things like grammar, sentence structure, language structure. And so it's a little bit different. It's a different curriculum than your typical world language Spanish 1 curriculum per se. So they just focus on the areas of need for Spanish speakers. So there's not really testing out. There's really how much better can you get at this, right? So that these skills can really serve you well in the future, right? To be biliterate is such a gift. So Augusto mentioned the seal of biliteracy. We want our students at the end, when they graduate, towards the end of graduation, to take the seal of biliteracy test. So that's, Teresa, where you are proficient orally, you are proficient in writing, you are proficient in reading, and literate all the way through. And that becomes a distinction on your graduation diploma and on your transcripts and when you apply to colleges. But it's kind of an honor to be able to do that. But we don't have a test out per se, particularly, in middle school. I would say that there are very few students who come to us fully articulate in English as well as Spanish or French or Chinese or Mandarin. So, but because of our population, particularly being heavy Spanish speaking, we did develop and offer a course called Spanish Heritage to address some of that.
So that was called the seal biliteracy?
Seal of biliteracy.
Oh.
So you are, we're certifying you that you are literate in a language, in a dual language.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question about not really about what we've gone over tonight, but can we just about class sizes in elementary schools? We've heard rumor that we're starting class sizes at a minimum of 25 in K through 5 schools. Is that correct? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so our class sizes, Kevin, do you want to touch base a little bit about that, or?
Yeah, sure. And so it varies across the district, Lauren. Our class size has always been 25, and we try to keep the guide between 22 and 25. And so we are letting our schools know that, we do have some schools this year starting out at 23, 24, 25. And so K1, 2, again, we try to stay within the 22 to 25 range. And sometimes it's not uncommon that we are at 24, 25. This year, we have more schools starting out at 24, 25 than we typically do. That's not across the board, but that is something that is part of our reality, yes.
Okay, with that being said, so so that's changing grade level teaching somewhat for some folks. So, if we're having higher numbers, we might not need like a fourth grade class or a fifth grade class. So teachers are being moved to different grades. How does that happen? Does that happen like by seniority, by, like if a teacher's been in the district 12 years and they don't want, not that they don't want, but they're not as comfortable teaching, say, a first grade or a kindergarten as they are teaching an upper elementary grade, is that taken into consideration? Or because they're more tenured, they get moved to a lower grade because kindergarten certification is different?
It kind of varies. And so the certification, as you had pointed out, Lauren, it's a K-5 certificate. It's a 1-5 certification. Kindergarten is separate. And so if we're just talking about just moves within the building, oftentimes it's not uncommon that, annually, regardless of the moves that, that might be going on right now, there might be, so, the 5 years that I've been here at Park Avenue, for an example, we've had years where we've had a bubble, like second grade, there's a lot of kids. That second grade would move up to third grade, there's a lot of kids. And so Dave might have to move some people around in his building to address, that bubble moving up across the building. So it really depends on the school. Kindergarten, to your point, if they don't have kindergarten certification, that might not be a grade level that they're moving to. If Kelly, Kara, and I are all third grade teachers and Dave needs someone in grade 1, he can ask voluntarily. If there's someone who, Kara might say, I love first grade, and, she'll run down there even though she has the most experience. And so it will go first, and I believe we go by seniority first, and then we go by moves. But the principal also has the ability to place people within their respective buildings. By certification,
Thank you.
of course.
Question. May I? Lauren, good.
Sorry, yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Lauren. So I was wondering if you could, there's two things. I was speaking with somebody regarding REACH, and I was told that there was, and I don't see how this could be possible, no math teacher at REACH teaching. Is that true?
I can
That
speak.
they were not teaching, that they did not teach math classes at REACH this year. There was no teacher there. Is that the case?
So that's not accurate. The part that is accurate is that there are teacher shortages in the area of mathematics. So we did start the year with a long-term sub in the position, and then we did have to reallocate, again, looking at the resources in the building based on certifications. And we also supplemented with some online learning supports for our students there. So it is a position at the building that there have been across the school year, 3 different individuals that have been supporting with the content. It actually was in the middle school program, so Endeavor. And so there have been changes in the mathematics, and we are still actively working to shore up that math position for the start of the school year.
So then we didn't have a math teacher, like a formal math test. Everybody kind of just helped out. Is that what you're saying?
No. So we started out with a long-term sub. We then
Yeah.
have someone that can teach more than one content. So we did change teaching assignments. And then we had to make another adjustment, and we utilized a sub at the end of the year as well.
So math was taught. There was classes taught every day, every week, whatever.
That was taught within the program, correct?
Okay. And then the other question that happened to come up this weekend. So which was, you know, obviously last year we went with the 2-week summer program because of the impact from COVID. This year it was because we were running, you know, our tight, things were tight. So I think we went again with the two weeks. But then I understand, is it true that after the first week or 8 days of the program, it was shut down, or that we closed summer school program in Danbury? I've heard that at 2 different locations, and I just didn't know from 2 different sources, and I hadn't heard anything about it, that there was an error and that they had to actually could no longer fund the program. Is there any truth, or?
I can maybe start with our special ed program. There was 1 day of closure this summer. It was actually the first day, July 5th, and that was due to flooding in the building.
Yes.
So it was 1 day at at AIS. There was 1 day. So our special education summer school program runs for 5 weeks. We ran for 5 weeks, but we did have 1 day of closure. And that was, again, due to the extensive rains that we had and so forth. So I'm not sure if the closure conversation is happening there. That was a reality. Fortunately, we were able to resume normal operations the following day and proceeded for the 5 weeks of summer school there. For a regular ed summer school program, it did run 2 weeks. There was some early in the spring conversations about running that program 4 weeks. We did make some decisions with budgetary constraints in mind to run it 2 weeks, and that is how we hired and rolled out to staff for summer.
Michelle,
Okay.
that you mentioned 8 days, and I think when summer school, all summer school always runs Monday through Thursday.
Okay.
And so 2 weeks, so that's, you know, week 1, Monday through Thursday, week 2, Monday through Thursday. So that is 8 days if that is where that number came from. So it's 2 weeks, but we don't bring the kids in on Fridays and staff.
Yeah. No, actually, I had somebody come up to me, two different, that's the thing. And they said that there was an error in payroll, that there was a significant error in payroll, and that there was not enough funding to extend the program till its completion. So this is just a rumor that there was no.
The program ran 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We had 2 summer programs. It went 2 weeks. And then Kelly's program with the full 5 weeks, with the exception of that day when we had that issue at AIS.
So there was no issue then with any error in paying anybody in the program, in the summer program, like double, you know, $40 or $75 an hour. That is not the case. Nothing like that occurred, because that's basically what I'm hearing. And I just want to make sure that it's if it is an ugly rumor, that, you know, that we address that conversation. Was there any kind of issue like that? I did get word of that.
Right. So I just want to try to unpack this a little bit. So the summer school experience for kids did not change, right? And so that moved forward this summer as planned. And the day that we had out was that unique day when we had the flooding at the school. And the 8 days for summer school moved forward as planned. If there was an issue with payroll, it definitely, whatever that may have been, I'm not exactly sure what you may have heard, but that definitely did not impact our planning for summer experience for kids this summer.
All right. Well, Kevin, can you, if you're not really sure, confirm with John or whomever, because I just literally, you know, this person spoke to one of the people that were working there and said that they were going back to school because the program had been closed because they had paid him double, which I, you know, understand that being. So if you could just confirm that.
Right. I want to make sure I want to make sure what I'm confirming, Michelle. So
that there was no error in payroll paying the summer school program, that there was no early, you know, there was no issue with the payment. I guess that's part of the curriculum. I had heard that the program had ended early, and it had to do with some sort of payroll issue. If you haven't heard anything, that's great. You said you weren't sure. If you could just confirm
right,
that.
But I can confirm right now, but let me just confirm now, summer school moved forward as planned in both the special ed programming. And so, like, if there was an issue with payroll, and I can clarify with John, All I'm saying is our summer school experience moved forward as planned this summer.
That's
so
one.
if right, and so if you heard the rumor that because of
Yeah.
a payroll issue, our summer school plans did not move forward as planned, that's incorrect because our summer school did move forward as we had planned
Wonderful.
to deliver this year. But I can find out separately if there was a payroll issue. If you want to talk offline and see if I can look up specifically
no.
about the person.
That's great.
Then I can ask John for clarification.
Wonderful. I only say that because I heard I was at two totally different events and I was like, you know what? I hadn't heard anything about it. Let me confirm because obviously we don't want that going around and I hadn't heard that. But in one weekend I heard it at two different. So I just want to make sure that, you know, I can set that straight. So if you could let me know, that'd be great, just to confirm with John.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. If you could confirm that information for us, that would be awesome.
Okay, anything else?
One more thing. So we're all set then with the issue that we had discussed. I'm pretty much sure we are. I just want to make sure the 9 teachers, we're not let go. The music program that, we're kind of looking to get the, ask for the reserves to the city, all that, needless to say, nobody's been let go, right? And those programs are moving forward as part of the curriculum for next year or whatever. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Well, I can certainly. Oh, I'm sorry, Lauren.
Members of the
Oh, what was that?
No, you're fine. But
Oh, you're breaking up. Hello?
Lauren, are you still there?
I think you're muted, Lauren.
Might be traveling.
There you
I was
go.
just gonna, I didn't let Kara finish, but I was just gonna say, if any members of the board that have questions that are not on the curriculum committee, please feel free to ask your questions at this point.
Thank you.
You can always email as well if you think of something later. That's fine, of course.
So if I can just quickly, Kara, you're gonna provide me with that chart that we talked about, right? The organization.
Yeah, so I'm trying to, so I don't know if I was there for the session where you discussed a specific chart. So I'm trying in my brain trying to understand. I haven't seen a chart from Nashville that charts out all of that stuff, and I've been to Nashville twice now. So
Kara, I think the discussion was, and Michelle, I don't know how much you remember from the meeting because I remember a little bit more now. When
we're there, Kara.
When Michelle had asked the question, I recall it as the organization chart for the district, and then this could give us an opportunity. So let's just say Nashville has 40,000 kids and we have 12. And so we get their org chart, we put it next to our org chart, because Michelle's point is they have all of these resources, as I remember it anyway. They have all of these resources to address all of these different things happening. Like, how are we going to pull this off? And so we take theirs for 40,000 kids, we take ours for 12, and I think it's necessary for us to do some kind of crosswalk to help us understand how we're going to make this work. We're trying to duplicate a model. They have a whole bunch of resources, and we're trying to better understand, well, what does this mean for Danbury? And then the visitors from Nashville also shared at the meeting, not every school in a district is an academy school. Families have the choice. And so if it's not, let's just say it's 40 schools in Nashville, I don't remember what it is. And so if it's only 20 schools, then, of the org chart, who at the district level is supporting, just the academies, and what does that mean for the org chart as well? So just really giving us the opportunity to do a crosswalk. So we can say, this is what it looks like in Nashville, this was Danbury, and see if there's any gaps and just begin to talk that through. I think that would help everyone.
I do remember that part of the conversation. Michelle, the way you described it before, I was envisioning a different chart and I'm like, so I think it's a chart that has to either be made or Nashville shares with us. It's not something that I already
Yeah,
have.
no, it's one that Nashville has. And they said they have it. And the nice thing about it was they have a much bigger system, but they actually scale it down to the size. They have different model sizes that would actually kind of line up with ours that we're implementing.
Okay,
So
I did send an email out to Brent, so we'll hopefully get that sooner than later.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the I think it was the older lady that had come and had a lot of experience on the
Right,
business
the board
end.
member.
The board
And
member,
they
yep.
Right.
talked about, because we were looking at, how do we support, because they had like 3 steps just to support for an internship, and they had it all broken down. And, it's important for us to at least say, hey, can we, instead of just kind of moving down the road the way I think we do, which is, great, but they're successful. And so they've already done the work, right? If they think you need 4 people for this, and we're like, wow, we're just making 2. I think Kevin and I had spoken of like, it's great to put this in place, but we want to make sure that, when we do, we have, it's resource. So that
it was a good meeting that day. I remember the conversation, Michelle, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm dying to go to Nashville. I mean, for my own reasons, but not in this case, I just really think like, I know that there's a couple of members that are going to be here for the next 2 years for sure. And I really would like to know, I think I would just be more, useful or helpful.
Yeah, we will definitely, I think we went the last time in March, Kara, so I guess we would be for the spring to make this work. Is that
So the registrations, they book almost a year out, so we would have to know, we'd have to organize something that'd be a
so then we
quicker.
need to do it. We'll do it ASAP then.
Yeah, and just
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because
well, the hard part is, the hard part is definitely, the funding to do it, and then the number of people who, of course, wants to go, and that becomes always a little bit of an issue. So maybe I'm sure Kevin can follow up with Ralph and on that conversation to see how to best to approach it. But I will just say, just as a placeholder too, we didn't just go to Nashville, right? So when we were looking at the models, we went to Nebraska. We sent folks out to some other places as well. Our administrators went on calc training, which was, and part of the calc training, which is a collaborative leadership training. They also visited other academy sites, and everybody does something really, really well that you want to emulate and bring back. And then there's some places, Kelly and I looked at each other like, nope, I think we do a better job of this on our own, so. Right. And so not everything that Nashville does, we want to replicate. And so, but there are definitely some great things in there. Right. And so the same thing with Nebraska and some other places. So, I just want to put that as the lens that, just because they're Nashville and they've done an awesome job and they've been at this for 17 years and they've, have this stuff. There are some things where like, well, we that's kind of not how we do certain things in Danbury, or we provide more opportunities in certain areas. So just wanted to say that because it's Nashville is
all of you came back excited. Dwayne Perkins, the man, like everybody seemed to really have a real understanding of the product, and I just really feel that would really help us as far as what the vision is, because everybody obviously lends a different perspective.
Sure.
So thank you for the consideration again.
Okay. All right. Well, Lauren, I don't know if you want to close it out or.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.